Our family has lived on the same acre of property for over 75 years. In 1932, my dad moved just outside the city limits of Tacoma. He was 8. He grew up here, fought in the war, came home, married my mom, and they bought the house from my grandmother. This is our family home. I've lived in this area all my life, and this was our backyard. I don't know why I feel this way. I can't understand it myself, but I've always felt close to the trees. Douglas fir trees are the ones I love the most. We played in the trees. Our neighborhood was a giant forest. We didn't need to go to the park. We lived in one. I started to notice it in the mid-70s, probably about 5 years after the first Earth Day, the war on trees. And it wasn't just the developers who'd come in and strip a few acres bare. After all, why would a new homeowner want a tree in their yard? The chainsaws would start up, and we knew another one was about to go. 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 5 at a time. People moved in, cut their trees down, and then moved away. This street used to be a cave of green. Giant fir trees lined the street as far as you could see. It was an incredible neighborhood. They don't make 'em like they used to. That's long gone. Here's our street now. Over the years, more than 25 trees have been taken out on the right side of this block. The left side is where we live. The people that removed all these trees no longer live in any of these houses. But people weren't satisfied to cut their trees. They wanted ours gone too. One neighbor lady would tell us that she had to cut the tree that was close to our property line. She said the trees were big and just too dangerous and would fall on her. We would talk her out of it, but finally we couldn't. The tree was cut down a year ago, and she passed away about 6 months later. It wasn't from a falling tree. Then behind our house sat 3 beautiful acres of dense forest land. You'd never know that now. This tree was the best in the neighborhood. If an artist wanted to paint a tree, this is the one they would have chosen. It wasn't near a house or a danger in any way. It was cut down 2 weeks ago. I heard the chainsaw first. I always do. I moved down the street to a house where big trees still stood. As soon as I did, my neighbor decided that a tree on the property line was too dangerous. When the tree cutters got there, I found myself sitting under it. I have to admit I felt pretty stupid, but I just couldn't stand aside and do nothing. The owner of the company drove out immediately to tell me I should protest back in Seattle, where I belonged. Then the sheriff came. He told me this was a huge misunderstanding because there were lots of trees left. He said I was hindering a company that was doing a public service for the community. At least I wasn't arrested. The guys hired to do the work were more than eager to pose for pictures. In the process, they told me I should start crying over the other trees they'd cut that year, about 4,000 of them. If they charged the $500 that my neighbor paid, that's a hell of a lot of money. I have to admit, I think Al Gore is great. In my opinion, he has done more to make people aware of this environmental crisis than anybody. But my neighborhood doesn't seem to be getting the message. Maybe they haven't seen an inconvenient truth. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if people don't care about the giant trees in their own backyards, why would they care about some trees in Brazil? The trees were here when I grew up. They were here before we were born. They'll be here long after we are gone. They'll be here for the next generation and the generation after that, if we just let them. I think back on the last 35 years, and I think of the next 35 years. Will there be anything left? As long as I'm alive, I'll still love the trees. Beyond that, you'll have to figure it out for yourself.